Hi guys, welcome to C2C Mentors. Today will be one of your last videos for VARC before CAT. I hope you all are not getting scared. It's the last few days. Hang in there. Be very patient with whatever and have faith in whatever prep that you have done up until now. Okay, let's begin solving the final one. I am ready and let's go. Okay, just give me a second. I'll escape this. Okay, so unlike the last few ones, over here we directly have our passage. So let's look if on 5 it changes. Okay, it changes. So I think there are only 4 questions then. Right? Yeah, 1 to 4. There you go. 1 to 4. That's one passage. 4 questions. Okay. What is the passage about? Today it is difficult to believe that the sands which now drift across the once splendid city of Babylon in Iraq used to grow the grain that fed a great civilization of built Jerusalem. Okay. I think it will be about the dispute over there. So let's look at the question. From the passage we can say that nope. Author is most agree with which of the following statements? Okay. Author is most agree with the statement that. How is that any different? The basic idea being followed in the passages. All 4 of them are very subjective. Let's go to the next one, which is 5th to 9th, I'm assuming. Okay, 9th it's not changed yet. 10th it has changed. So 5th to 9th, that's 5 questions. Okay, 5 to 9, 5 questions. And what is it about? I saw surrealism. Recover surrealism's potential for attending to the every day. We need to return to moments when the surrealist project refused either to inhabit the separate realm of art and design. I want to read surrealism as a form of, okay, but the language is not very good though. Even though there might be objective questions, the passage doesn't want us to be read. What does the word banal mean? Poor, commonplace, ugly, well-known. Banal is commonplace. So this I'll mark right off the bat. Okay. Some questions are just that objective that you can get the gist of it. Why does the author make the statement classic surrealism can be seen as Sherlock Holmes-like? Okay. The scope is narrower but still subjective. Which of the following statements is not true about the passage? Okay, fair. Let's look at the 8th one. Come on. Yeah. So the following can be considered a technique used unique to surrealism. Okay, 8th one is objective. Mental bureaucracy mean in the given context. 8th and 9th I can say are objective. Others not so much. 1th already marked. Okay, so 10th to 14th is it? 14th maybe same hai. Okay, 10th to 14th. I'm correct. That's 5 questions again. Okay, 5 questions. My bad. And then what is it about? Okay. What separates science from other intellectual activities? The search for a distinctive logical structure of scientific inquiry and for the essence of science. Scientific truth both goes back to David Hume, Lost in Math. Science basically. This is science ka history. Okay. Thematic highlight. Nope. Let's go. So the following about the falsibility criterion is not asserted in the passage. Okay. Scope is a little narrow. The statement best presents the differences between philosopher and scientist. Okay, 12th. Following can be inferred from the passage. 14th, the author is most likely to be here. Okay, so 12th maybe somewhat. 11th, it's not, yeah. So 11th, 12th maybe somewhat. Okay. And that's about it for me for this particular set. 14th I saw, but no, I'll choose not to keep it over there in that particular let's look at it later only. Okay, 15 to let's look at 18 may change ho gaya. Okay, 15, 16, 17 then. There are only 3 questions. Wow, how the set is quite big for 3 questions. That's not fair, honestly. Should we have monopoly in gas pipeline rather than should GAIL have a monopoly? Okay, monopoly, gas Which of the following question is answered in the passage? Okay, that is 17. Okay, the author would agree with which of the following? Which of the following can be inferred from the passage? I think among the three, 17th is the most objective question. Okay, then let's have summary, OOO, and PJ. Okay, I'll just be dragging this here. So 18, 19, 20. Okay, 18, 19, 20 are summary. 18, 19, 20 are summary. Let's look at the next. Odd one out. 21 is odd one out. 22 is odd one out. 23 is PJ. 21, 22. Okay. 21, 22. Then 23, 24. Let's look at 25 and 26 and wrap this up. It's 34. 25 is, okay, this one, PJ. 26 is also PJ. 24, 25, 26. Not fun for me, right? Anyway, let's start. In this, I'll start with science because it is relatively easier to read. Then I'll go for surrealism. Let's tackle the more difficult ones later. Then we have Jerusalem and Monopoly wala question. But Monopoly has only 3 and usme bhi 1 is good. So let's go for a relatively easier set. Okay, because Jerusalem second set thoda heavy ho jayega. I don't want another heavy set back to back, and then we can go fourth for that particular set. Okay, so 10 to 14. Let's look at 10 to 14 first. What separates science from other intellectual activities? The search for a distinctive logical structure of scientific inquiry and for the essence of scientific truth goes back at least to David Hume's concern with the limits of inductive inferences. Does the fact that the sun rose yesterday, where is it, mean that it must rise tomorrow, and has been pursued along a variety of philosophical lines? Perhaps best known among such effort is the falsibility criterion devised by Austrian philosopher Karl Popper, according to whom science should be recognized not by the evidence it garners on behalf of one proposition or another. Supporting evidence can be found for pretty much any proposition, but by the types of question it asks, questions that can be empirically contradicted. In Lost in Math, however, Sabine Hossenfelder, a physicist who is funny and writes with a slightly oblique flair sometimes found in totally fluent non-native English writers, learns at a scientific conference that Popper's idea that scientific theory must be falsifiable has long been an outdated philosophy. I'm glad to hear this, as it's a philosophy that nobody in science ever could have used. Ideas can always be modified or extended to match incoming evidence. Exactly. What then joins Hossenfelder's field of theoretical physics to ecology, epidemiology, cultural anthropology, cognitive psychology, biochemistry, macroeconomics, computer science, and geology? Why do they all get to be called science? Certainly, it is not similarity of method. The methods used to search for the subatomic components of the universe have nothing at all in common with the field geology methods in which I was trained in graduate school. Nor is something as apparently obvious as a commitment to empiricism a part of every scientific field. Many areas of theory development in disciplines as disparate as physics and economics have little contact with actual facts, while other fields now considered outside of science, such as history and textual analysis, are inherently empirical. Okay, right. Philosophers have pretty much given up on resolving what they call the demarcation problem, the search for definitive criteria to separate science and from non-science. The best that can be hoped for is what John Dupre, invoking Wittgenstein, has called a family resemblance among fields we consider scientific, but scientists themselves haven't given up on assuming that there is a single thing called science that the rest of the world should recognize as such. The demarcation problem matters because the separation of science from non-science is also a separation of those who are granted legitimacy to make claims about what is true in the world from the rest of us. Philistines, pundits, provocateurs, and just plain folks. In a time when expertise and science are supposedly under attack, some convincing way to make this distinction would seem to be of value. Yet Hossenfelder jaunt through the world of theoretical physics explicitly raises the question of whether the activities of thousands of physicists should actually count as science, and if not, then what is tarnation are they doing? Then what in tarnation are they doing? Okay, fair. Let's look at the objective questions. This is 11th and 12th. Okay, there you go, 11th. Which of the following about the falsifiability criterion is not asserted in the passage? Falsifiability, according to the Karl Popper, defines the inherent testability of any scientific theory. ये हुआ. Right. Okay, so criterion of falsifiability in the philosophy of science is a standard evaluation of putatively scientific theories. Standard evaluation, so criteria of falsifiability in the philosophy of science is a standard evaluation of putatively scientific theories, right? The falsifiability criterion itself is open to question today and might well have doubtful veracity. ये भी discuss तो हुआ था. To whom science should be reckoned not by evidence it garners on behalf of one proposition and another by types of question it asks, questions that can be empirically contradicted. Held that genuinely scientific theories are never finally confirmed. He never held that. I never finally confirmed. Did he say that? Not asserted. I don't think so. Right? That doesn't sound to be correct. That doesn't. Yeah. It did not come out anywhere. I'm not 100% sure about this one also, but this one definitely did not come to be. A and B, yes, there are parts and bits and parts to it, but this one, no. It is a scientific idea. Yeah. Right. Falsifiability criterion. The genuinely scientific theories are never finally confirmed. No, the words are too extreme, I think, for this particular question. That's it. 11th and 12th. Let's look at the 12th one. Which of the following statements best represents the difference between philosophers and scientists? Experiments to obtain results that verify a hypothesis, but philosophers are interested in understanding what factors determine the validity of scientific endeavors in the first place. Philosophers have stopped identifying what is distinctive about science, while scientists are adamant about the existence of a single unique sphere named science. Okay, stop trying to identify what is distinctive about science, while scientists are adamant about this a single unique sphere named science. Yeah, that's what the distinction that they're talking about, right? While most scientists work within established paradigms, philosophers question the paradigm themselves and try to explore. No, C तो definitely नहीं है. Obtain results and verify, but philosophers are interested in understanding what factors the validity of scientific. Okay, there are lots of things philosophers of science study, but one central set of concern is what is distinctive about science, what features are essential to scientific engagement with phenomena. So I'm confused between B and D. Okay, they are almost conveying a very similar. Let's get lots of things philosophers of science study. Okay, I have stopped trying identifying what is distinctive about science, while scientists are adamant about the existence. Okay. What features essential scientific engagement? I'm going to be marking this for review. B and D, I just don't have a concrete answer, nothing else, right? So let's go from 10 then. This from 10. There you go. What is the thematic highlight of the passage? Variation in opinion of different scientific distinction with science and non-science. The main motivation for demarcating art field from the science field. B is more correct. The important necessity of distinguishing science from non-science. No. Science from non-science possibility ही नहीं है. The main motivation for demarcating है. Yes. Divergence between theory and experimentation that define science. No. Perfect. This was relatively much easier, right? 12th one we did not do, I think. Which among the following, right? सही है. On the following can be inferred from the past. Science have always worked together to try to uncover truths about the universe we live in. No. One of the tenets behind the scientific method is that any scientific hypothesis and the resultant experimental design must be inherently falsifiable. Behind scientific method is that any scientific hypothesis result, okay, must be inherently falsifiable. Okay, fair. ठीक है. Following can be from Popper saw falsifiability as a black and white definition. that if a theory is falsifiable, it is scientific, and if not, then it is not it is unscientific. No, then he was talking about different this also, no? Studies, right? No, this is not, C is not correct. A, science have always worked with prior. No, this was not the main inference. Philosophers are more concerned with the idealized picture of science as an optimally rational knowledge building activity. No, has to be B. Yeah. Okay. The author is most likely to be a professor, newspaper reporter, career counselor, writer, or sci-fi book. Yeah, this has to be a professor. The way he is talked, this seems like a research paper, right? It's very dry also. Second one is 5 to 9. Let's look at 5 to 9. Okay. 5 तो डन भी है. 6 पे आ जाओ. ठीक है. There you go. To recover surrealism's potential for attending to the everyday, we need to return to moments when the surrealist project refused either to inhabit the separate realm of art design or to be reduced to supplying it with innovative techniques. I want to read surrealism as a form of social research into everyday life, to see its product not only as works of art but as documents of the social research. In this way, such as collage become methodologies for attending to the social. Collage provides a persistent methodology for attending to everyday life in surrealism. In the juxtaposing of disparate elements, umbrella, sewing machine, etc., it generates a defamiliarizing of the everyday. If everyday life is what continually threatens to drop below a level of visibility, collage practices allow the everyday to become vivid again by making the ordinary strange through transferring it to surprising context and placing it in unusual combinations. But surrealism is not just a technique for making the ordinary extraordinary. Technique for making the ordinary extraordinary. The everyday in surrealism is already strange. Okay, surrealism, the everyday is not the familiar and banal realm that it seems to be. Only our drab habits of mind understand it that way. Instead, the everyday is where the marvelous exists. As such, collage is both a way of breaking habits of mind that would submit the everyday to normalizing impulses and a suitable form of representing the everyday. It is in the actuality of the everyday when passing a second-hand shop, for instance, when sewing machines find themselves collaged together in a dissecting table. Surrealism is about an effort and energy to find the marvelous in the everyday, to recognize the everyday as a dynamic montage of elements to make it strange so that its strangeness can be recognized. The classic can be seen as Sherlock Holmes-like. Faced with deadly boredom of the everyday, the surrealist takes it to the street, working to find and create the marvelousness of the everyday. A surrealist politics of the everyday always included a dual perspective. Okay. Transform the world, Marx said. Change life, Rimbaud said. The two watchwords are one for us. The capitalist everyday was impoverished and alienated and required social revolution to transform, but rationalist consciousness was also impoverished and that required Rimbaud's long, boundless and reasoned disordering of all the senses. Surrealism commitment to the Communist Party was as vociferous as it was unorthodox, and it's hard not to feel that Rimbaud figured ahead of Marx in the pantheon surrealist heroes. For surrealism, contemporary social organization hadn't eradicated the marvelous in the everyday, even if it had sidelined to the marginal pockets. More important, the existence of the marvelous in the everyday was created from consciousness by forms of mental organization. What was needed was a systematic attack on such mental bureaucracy. Okay, some of it made sense, some of it didn't make sense. We'll see. Which of the following can be considered to be technique unique to surrealism? Symbolism, classicism, montage, realism. Okay. See, I'm sold on montage right now. But what is montage? It's not realism and classicism. Montage and symbolism should be the case, it seems, right? We're passing a second-hand shop, marvelous, right? Contemporary social order are more important than existence of marvelous and by forms of systematic happening. Consciousness, okay. Hmm. I'll go with montage and mark it for review. It's a risk that I'm taking. Let's see, right? Let's see how it works out. 8 and 9. The passage was a little difficult though. What does the term mental bureaucracy mean in the context of the mean in the given context? Okay. Organized form of government, disordered form of government, prioritization of the rational consciousness, prioritization of everyday life. Okay, marvelous everyday from conscious by forms of mental organization, from by forms what was needed. Okay, such mental. The existence of marvelous in the everyday, prioritization of everyday life. Yeah, this is it, not rational consciousness. The existence of marvelous in the everyday was alienated from consciousness by forms of mental organization. Yeah. What was needed was on such mental, yeah. So we are prioritizing contemporary social and eradicate marginal every day, even if it had sidelined to marginal pockets, because you are prioritizing your daily life, not rational consciousness. Okay, so ninth, I would go for fourth and sixth. We're coming to sixth, are we? There you go. We will be. कहाँ से है? Fifth हो गया ना? Fifth हो गया, right? Why does the author make the statement classic surrealism can be seen as Sherlock Holmes like? Okay, because surrealism invokes, what's the time? 1948. Okay, because surrealism invokes the skills of deduction and rationalization. What does that mean? Because surrealism involves breaking habits of the mind in order to maximize effectiveness of practical operations. Okay, because surrealism involves skills of normalizing the impulse, involves the creative skill overcoming enchanted with the quotidian. Because it involves the creative skill of becoming re-enchanted. Yeah, this is what he was talking about, right? Because he is a Sherlock Holmes is bored. He is trying to make it happen, and that's why. Okay, let's go on to the seventh one. Which of the following is not true about the given is the application of Marxist ideology of arts and other cultural spaces? What? Unusual combinations, okay. It belongs to domains of sociology and culture studies, okay. Attention to everyday life stands the everyday on its head, okay. Yeah, this is not fitting anywhere. Marxism, I don't understand where this came from. Seventh wala one we'll go for. Let's go on to the third passage, which is 15 to 17. We have very little time left. It's going to be a little difficult. Should we have monopoly in the gas pipeline rather than, okay, 1 second, let me just look at one thing. Okay, no, we'll go for this one. Should we have gas pipelines rather than should GAIL have a monopoly? Gas transmission is essentially a natural monopoly, and we are talking of fairly large stakes in a growing economy with significant backlog investment in a basic concern. It is imperative for policy and decision makers to ensure that the principles and fundamentals of gas transmission are laid out properly. Issues such as open competition in gas transmission infrastructure, advantages or disadvantages of allowing certain marketers to build and operate this infrastructure, and the nature of regulation that should be put in place to enable the development growth of an efficient gas market are critical. A high investment in such a gas transmission is and should be a monopoly, but in a somewhat narrow sense, the business need not be owned and operated by a single agency in a vast country like India. We can encourage 2 or 3 players in the country from private or public sector as long as we have strong regulation on service standards. We are likely to get an optimal use of resources and satisfied. Why do we argue that multiple and parallel pipeline infrastructure is not desirable? The answer simply is that we should not use the scarce resource, be they public or private, in creating multiple assets where there is a need for resource optimization. Presence of multiple pipelines will undermine the economics of connectivity, even though strong and efficient regulator could try to avoid it. There is strong need to create mechanism wherein then operate the pipeline. Competition should be at the conceptualized planning stage so that the most efficient player is selected to build and operate the pipeline. Next important issue is whether there is conflict of interest in allowing gas producer to set up pipeline. Ideally, the supplier, transporter and distributor should be separate entities with each of them concentrating on their core areas of expertise. The supplier has to be an efficient gas producer. Transporter should be one who is good at managing interstate and inner country pipeline. Distributor, co-transporter need not necessarily be a good distributor. India should evolve a mechanism where there are multiple producers through a single trunk. Okay, because we are at a fairly nascent state today, the lack of national grid should be seen as an advantage that it gives us the opportunity to plan our system well. Strong regulation in the infrastructure sector have always been a matter of serious debate in India. While we have made tremendous progress on the regulatory learning curve, there still are many unanswered questions and the investor confidence is still nowhere near the desired level. Okay, the regulatory model for the gas transmission sector should take into account the interests of consumers on one hand and ensure the health of the industry on the other. The independence of the regulator is paramount. Funding for the regulator should come from all industry players. Tariff determination, whether it is cost to serve or any other model aimed at ensuring efficient operation and development of capacity. It should also be ensured that the tariffs are equitable for customers and investors. Regulating gas grids in a fairly complex issue. Okay, fairly complex and is best regulated by a single agency. A good regulator will ensure that there is non-discriminatory access, transparency and third-party access to gas infrastructure. Okay, so this one being, let's go. Which of the following can be inferred from the passage? The absence of multiple pipelines will lead to optimal utilization of no. The regulatory model of gas transmission should have overriding consideration for health. No. Lack of national grid is a major stumbling block in the development of the sector. Okay. Pipelines should not be built and operated by a consortium of companies. Yes. This one, 15 wala D. That's what they are talking about. Should not be built and operated a consortium of companies. Yeah. Author would agree with which of the following statements? Gas transmission should be, say 15.1. Should be monopoly of 2 or 3, but with regulator. Gas transmission should be a monopoly for the player having adequate infrastructure. For the player having adequate, ये भी बोला उसने. Gas transmission should be restrictive monopoly. Okay. Gas monopoly for player having adequate infrastructure, restrictive monopoly of 2 or 3, but with a regulator. 1 तो बोला है. Now it's between 2 and 3 or just 3. Restrictive monopoly बोले for the player having adequate. No, this becomes 2 becomes this. No, then when I was reading I was thinking कि अगर Reliance होता, so Reliance को ही देना है is not what he's saying. There should be some restriction is what he's saying. Okay, ये हो गया. Which of the following question is answered in the past? There are many questions. Which type of body can best regulate the gas grid? That's what they were trying to answer. So the independence of regulator of paramount importance. No. Has the government done enough to make? No. What is the advantage of having a single player than a consortium to build the? Okay. So D is also correct, but A is what the crux was and D came in the discussion thoda sa. Okay? So that's why A is what I'll be choosing and with confidence I'll be choosing. Okay? Today it is difficult to believe that sands which now drift across the once splendid city of Babylon in Iraq used to grow the grain that fed a great civilization or build a great temple in Jerusalem, but they did and it was human hands which brought them to their present state. Stripped of protective tree cover, relentlessly overgrazed and exploited, these previously fertile land fell prey to soil erosion, were quickly reduced to arid, unproductive scrub and desert. There are important differences, however, between the destruction of the past and that being caused today. In the past, ecological damage was limited in scale and extent, both because of the technologies involved and because the activities only affected a relatively small area. By contrast, the consumer culture was on our own headlong dash to the destruction is generalized to the globe. For our economic system to survive, it is essential that more and more people are drawn into the system. Okay. In that sense, our civilization is unique, for its impact is now global, destroying or undermining the viability of ecosystem from pole to pole. Toxic waste poured into holes into grounds or discharged directly into waterways have contaminated rivers and groundwaters throughout the world. Over-intensive agriculture is condemning 200,000 kilometers square of land to become desert or semi-desert every year, with almost a quarter of the Earth's land surface now affected tropical forest, temperate forest. The pristine continent is in jeopardy. Its minerals and all those are being sized up for commercial exploitation. Underlying this global assault is a way of life that demands more from the environment than the environment can sustain. Become dependent on products and processes that are inherently destructive, either through their manufacture, their use, disposal. Get to work, for example, many making a car requires steel, obtaining petroleum, driving a car, building road demands this. Not does the process stop there. If every time it is driven, the car emits a range of harmful chemical, and when finally the car has reached the end, creating yet more environment. Okay, good. Warning lights have been flashing for decades. In the late 1950s, the poisoning of local eaten fish contaminated with mercury highlighted the danger of chemical dumped in the and their potential for reaching oxide levels as they move through the food chain. A few years later, the dangers of pesticides were eloquently portrayed by Silent Spring. In early 1970s, the dangers of acid rain, the potential threat to the ozone layer, the imminent disruption of our climate were first brought to public attention. Before the decade was out, the seeping of chemical from more toxic waste lump of lava near Niagara City in the United States and the subsequent evacuation of nearby residents had brought home to public and the legacy of pollution left by years of irresponsible waste disposal. By the end of 1980s, we had seen radioactive fallout over whole regions of Europe and USSR. Okay, climate. The danger is that we have gone beyond simply damaging rivers and now disrupting the very process that keeps the earth a fit place for. Okay, good. Okay, from the passage we can see that the manufactured chemical toxin outweighs pollutive legacy. Okay, the threat to ozone layer has been very recently realized. The global destruction today is much more in extent than scale. This is fair. From the poisonous environment enveloping us will bring imminent disaster. C is better. C is a much better answer. Yeah. In the car example, the author is most likely to agree with which of the following? The requirement of car manufacturer ecologically does a car even after its useful life is over can be ecologically. The indispensability of automobile today forces many of us to go for them. I think he'll agree with all of them. Why are 1 and 2 a problem? Because the automobiles are indispensable. That's why. And that's why all 3 should become the answer. Okay. The author is most likely to agree. What's the time? 9:59. The author is most likely to agree with the statement that the price paid for destruction by far overshadows the gain of progress. Fair. That's a good sentence. The nature's transformation process dauntingly acute. Okay. The idiosyncrasies of mankind leading to global degradation were evident eons ago. Not eons ago. 1950 se bola. Collective effort by people can scarcely help the globe any longer. This is what he is most likely to agree with. उसने उसके बारे में कुछ बोला ही नहीं, right? The basic idea being followed in the passage is about saving the environment, technological disaster, global warming now evolving into reality, sustenance of the environment's demand, Earth becoming an unfit place for existence of life. Not specifically about global warming, it's of environment's demand. No. From technological disaster. It's not just technological disaster. They're talking about everything. Right? They started from Earth becoming an unfit place for existence is what they're saying. A and D के बीच में I was confused. I'll go with D. Not even like confused with respect to mark for review next. Just going with D. 18, 19 and 20. A positive consequence of the inexorable advance of communication technology globalization is that people around the world can become aware of and share in each other's culture, thus encouraging diversity and discouraging intolerance. Indeed, Nobel laureate this believes that if the communication technology in place today had existed at the time of Hitler's rise to power, then his criminal plot may have been buried under the weight of worldwide ridicule and intolerance. The negative consequence of globalization is that Western and predominantly American culture gradually imposes itself around the world, usually to the detriment of long-established indigenous culture. Creeping globalization is creating a consumer-centered single world culture that is focused on all things American and English language. Also, for those analysts who are opposed to globalization, this type of global culture is accused of slowly killing diversity and tolerance as well as eradicating traditional ways of life. Okay, 8 minutes. Communication technology has proved to be a boon for the world and has created unity. Communication and global has facilitated stronger bonds among nations but pose a serious threat to regional diversity. Be better. Thinkers are divided on how to perceive impact. No. The recent communication has led to rise of English language. That was very basic. Okay. What is the hidden secret? Is there nothing in life other than what is visible to the eyes from the point of view of the common understanding of the generality of mankind? Life seems to be only what is seen by the eyes, heard with the ears, and sensed in some way or the other by organs of the psycho-physical composition. But man is superior, they say, to the animal in a special and significant endowment with which he is blessed by providence, nature, or whatever we may call it. That endowment being the capacity to study what is implied in the experiences through which he passes, rather than merely be satisfied with the experiences only. Humans are also animals and share experiences that their sense organs afford them. However, since humans can perceive life beyond those experiences, they can be deemed superior to animals. Okay, animals and humans both have sense organs that are perceptive to their environment. However, the insights that humans derive from their experiences are superior to those of animals. Okay, this is, yeah, okay, fair. And 6 minutes. Empirical learning is not an exclusive preserve for men. Animal too experience life in ways as diverse as humans do, and derive similar learning. Experiences are as mundane to human life as to animal life. Okay, the ability to interpret and learn from experience is what makes men. Yeah, D is better. A and D के बीच में था, D is better. ठीक है? But there is a higher reason in the human individual, which though it gets stifled many a time due to clamors of the senses and needs of life, is voiced now and then, and in rare specimen of stalwarts among people in the world. The reason manifests itself as a brilliant radiance shedding a light which is not of this world, because anything that is totally a part of this world cannot know the world. An object cannot know itself. There is a necessity for something else to even know that there is such a thing as the object or the world. Who knows that there is a world? Does the world itself know it? Objects that belong to this world can only be known by objects that belong to the other world. Need for an individual to know himself surfaces from time to time and has the potential to lead to enlightenment. Okay. One's individuality in this world is a brilliant idea for the few who tend to pursue it. Anything which forms an integral part of something is capable to know itself. Okay. I'll go with B because C and D are not making this belong to this world can only. And A is definitely can be eliminated. I'm not convinced with B also, but A, C and D से तो better option लग रहा है, and that's why I'll mark it for review also. I'm not going to be reviewing it, but that uncertainty needs to be addressed over there, right? So let's go on to 21. There are 4 minutes something left. Okay, one of the basic arithmetic operations is finding squares and difference between squares of two natural numbers. Though there are various methods to find the difference between squares of two natural numbers, still there is scope of finding simplified easy approaches. Sequence formed using difference between square of two natural numbers follows a number patterns. Using number patterns may facilitate an easier approach. The sequence has some general properties which are already discussed by many mathematicians in different notions. So, okay, natural numbers, various subsets have been recognized by ancient mathematics. Yeah. This is quite easy. Fifth one becomes the odd one out. Yeah. Okay. In order for an organization to succeed, it needs to have a map that will give direction to the business. And this is a strategic plan created by experts in human resource management. The human resource department needs to clearly understand where the organization is headed. Traits that an organization should have. Familiarization with strategy, vision, and values is essential to make HR strategies that can support business growth. And human resource management managers need to work hard to show that well thought out people can play a critical role structuring the high performance. The organization needs to uphold a long term growth. In order, okay, map हो गया. familiarization vision essential for making them. Human resource department needs to clearly understand where organization is headed. Human resource manager need to work. Okay, flexibility, adapt traits that organization should have, right? 250. Okay, flexibility and adaptability are traits that organization should have. HR इधर मेंशन हुआ है, HR फोर्थ में मेंशन हुआ है, HR फिफ्थ में मेंशन हुआ है, एंड फर्स्ट वन में भी मेंशन हुआ है, जबकि सेकंड वाले में ह्यूमन रिसोर्स, थर्ड वाले में आई मीन फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी अडाप्ट ट्रेट्स दैट एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन शुड हैव, राइट? दैट फील्स out of place, honestly, so I'll be going with that. Like, it's not just because HR, but also this comes out of the blue, right? Organization के बारे में, जबकि we are talking about how HRs are supposed to give direction to the entire, so that's why I'll go with that option. Let's look into 23rd has a lot it, I think, but बड़ा बड़ा है. 24th में 24th is much smaller. Let's go with this. Okay, number of children who have obesity and are becoming more severely obese is astounding. Also affected by a lack of exercise, which when and it can have horrifying effects over time. Childhood obesity is caused by unstructured and unmonitored eating that involves too much sugar and saturated fats. Children develop terrible health problems that are mostly seen in older adults. The results of childhood obesity are no joke. Okay, 5 and 4 end होगा I think. Okay, जबकि start में the children obesity are no joke, develop terrible health in adults caused by the number of children who are becoming more severely obese is astounding. Childhood obesity. So my first sentence could either be 3 or 1. Okay, childhood obesity is caused by 110. Come on, childhood obesity number of children. I'll go with 1. ठीक है, 1 3 करेंगे. Childhood obesity structured and unmonitored, it is also affected, so 3 के बाद 2 आना चाहिए. ठीक है, there you go. So this is also done. Good. This is also a relatively smaller one. Let's just look at 26 if that's small. Yeah. Okay. This new identity led to a greater social consciousness. Legacy of Harlem Renaissance is that it redefined how America and the world viewed the African American population. As okay, so second से start होगा शायद. From being perceived as rural and it changed to one of urban cosmopolitan. Okay. Migration of southern blacks to northern changed the image of the African American. Okay, so migrant Africa became players. Fourth, from being perceived, the new era led to greater social consciousness, and then we end on 5. 2 4 3 1 5. Okay, 26 2 4 3 1 5 is what I'm marking, and I think we'll just leave that because the time is up. So I think we've left 3 questions and marked 1 or 2 for review. Right, review वाले question तो हमने choose किए थे, so that's fine. Those are the basically those are the gambles that I'm playing, and the others are the ones that I could not. So over here in the 26th one, there were, and I could not attempt 2 of those. Maybe it could be possible, but then the other ones that I chose were the ones जहाँ पे the sentences were smaller, so it would be much easier for me to play around with it. Okay, there you go. My accuracy has dipped. I need to see what happened. So I got 21 correct out of 23. I got 2 wrong. So let's see where did we go wrong. Switch this on to. Not expected. I thought we got something wrong in BA. Montage and symbolism. Okay, it was a hard question too. Concept in serialism, the not familiar and banal realm that it seems to be. Answer is 1. Okay. Let's look at this. What is the thematic highlight of the passage? the impossibility and necessity distinguishing science from non-science, for demarcating art field from science field, possibility and necessity. Right, this was a difficult passage then. The authors talk about, so there were 2 wrong that I got, and yeah, that hurts, when you get something or the other wrong in RC, that definitely bothers. Anyway, up to you all guys, up to you now. The passages over here were a little difficult, and I did waste a little bit of time in some of the questions, so don't get emotionally invested in those questions. Don't be like me. Try to at least have 10 to 12 minutes for your VA, especially when VA has so many questions, right? There were 4 PJ, 3 summary and 2 OO, so that is approximately 9, and that's as good as the old times when there used to be 10 questions. So I would urge for you to at least have 13 to 14 minutes for those 9 questions. I had very little time, I think, and which is why I had to expedite my process. But again, I want to point out that I have not marked the ones that I was not comfortable with. Okay, I think only with respect to summary, one of them we took a risk, and I think that risk paid off. It's not wrong. While that's not true about the RC, the very first RC that too, and that's what hurts a little bit. Regardless of that, all the best for your paper, and take care guys, have faith in your prep.